This morning, my simple assignment is to look at implications of variation orders. I know 2 weeks ago, you were taken through variation orders by my colleague extensively. My duty is to simply take us through the implications of some of the issues that arises as a result of our variation orders we issue. So that much ado, I proceed. My presentation outline is going to be like this. We will look at what is a variation order in brief, the implications of variation orders, seeking approval for variation orders, then questions we should ask ourselves before issuing variation orders. Then we'll look at some practical cases, and then we conclude. A variation order is a change to the original scope of work that arises during the construction process. This change may be initiated by the client or the contractor and can be due to a variety of reasons, such as changes in design or specifications, unforeseen site conditions, and changes in regulations. In other words, we have clients-originated variation orders and contractor-induced variation orders. So I specifically highlighted red, the contractors-induced variation orders. So what will be the implications of variation orders? There are several implications when variation orders are issued. However, for the purpose of this morning, I will concentrate on only one: increase in project costs, since it has been the problem we have in our industry. In recent times, the government is under pressure to implement road projects in short notices. You see, a lot of pressure is coming from all other places for road infrastructure because the deterioration has become beyond normal. Because of that, road projects are therefore packaged without designs and proper specification, because we need very short periods to package them. So we don't have the time to do proper studies and then do designs before we can package. So we are able to package using empirical data to do fast tracking. Variations are therefore issued during the course of work, so they become very, very important. And so before the work starts, a lot of the time there are variations that are even anticipated. However, in the issuance of these variation orders, we do not pay attention to costs. And in most cases, the contract sums increase abnormally. In fact, we can have contract sums which are increasing over 100%, even some of them over 200%. So this is where the focus is going to be, because when we do things like that, there are implications that are going to come. So the reason I deliberately highlighted it also red. The most common activities which increase beyond original quantities in our contracts are unsuitable excavation, rock boulders, fail to formation, excavate from borrow pits, then haulage. These changes mostly trigger clause 12.3 in our FIDE contracts. Mostly our projects are based on FIDE contracts, and so clause 3.3. But we do not make any effort to obtain value for money for the clients. So when we come to this clause, a lot of the time it look that, see, the contractors have noticed that because our projects are ill prepared, they smartly price their contracts in such a way that some of these items are a little loaded with in terms of rates, being loaded. So, and they know that when they get to site, those things will increase. So they are going to make abnormal profits. But we feel this clause will give us opportunity to renegotiate those rates, because it's supposed to be a clause that is when certain conditions are met, like in terms of quantity and in terms of change, and those things are met, then you'll be able to renegotiate the rates accordingly. But a lot of the time, we think that this clause is meant for the contractor. It's meant for both contractor and clients. So when the client also feels that he's not getting value for money for that activity, he can also put in a request for rate negotiation as a result of the increase in volumes. When variation orders are issued, we require approvers, because you issue the variation order, the contractor does the work. Before payments are made and whatever, we need approvers from the appropriate authorities before we can proceed. But in seeking approval for variation orders, we are confronted with two constraints. First of all, the Public Procurement Act Clause 87, which talks about modifications, and then the public financial, the most serious one, which most of us are not privy to because we are always concerned about the works on the side, but we don't bother ourselves with financial issues. So the Public Financial Management Regulations 2019 LI 2378. Clause 87, modifications of the Public Procurement Act 2003 at 663 states that where there will be an aggregate increase in the original amount of the contract by more than 10% of the original price, the procurement entity shall inform the appropriate tender review committee for variation orders above 10% of original contract amount. Central Tender Review Committee will require proof of funding before giving approval. So you see that a lot of the time our fight is with Central Tender Review Committee on this issue because we think it's a variation order on an ongoing project which already has a warrant, but we don't think that we need warrants to continue with this processes. So it becomes a tussle between us and Central Tender Board, and sometimes it becomes very heated because there's pressure on us to get the works through. The proof of funding they will often require with a confirmation in terms of warrant from Ministry of Finance, or if the project is funded by RUFAM, they will looking for confirmation from RUFAM. The Public Financial Management Regulations 2019 LI 2378 requires that the principal spending officer of each covered entity requires a warrant for recurrent and capital expenditure. So the principal spending officer in our case here, like our chief executive, see he requires a warrant for any recurrence or capital expenditure that he's going to undertake. So for this particular reason, I've tried to give you clauses in the Public Financial Management Regulation that deals with such cases. So clause 63, 64, 65, and 68 takes a look at this. So if you check the chart, my chart listener posted this. I've tried to post this clause in there. So if you can download and then we'll have a look at it, it will help. So for the purpose of this one, if you look at clause 63 of the Public Financial Management Regulation 2019, that is on page 40. It's on page 40 of that. Those who have the book, or those who can also have downloaded from the chat, they can see what I'm talking about. It talks about request for warrants. That's the clause 63. It talks about request for warrants and how we are going to go about it. Then the 64 talks about how you distribution of the commitment that they are giving to you, and the ceiling. In any of the warrants they give to us, they will always specifically indicate that not exceeding. If anybody has seen the warrants that are given to us by Ministry of Finance, anytime we are looking for a warrant to implement our projects, they specifically state that this is not exceeding. If the project contract sum is at 300 million, they say not exceeding 300 million. So which means that you cannot expend more than 300 million. So if you have to expend more than 300 million, then there's an action you need to take before you can do so. So if you look at 65, we'll talk about warrants for requirements for warrants, how you should go about it. Then the 66 will talk about commitment, requisition, and approval. Then the most interest will be like on the 68, which we know most of our projects are more than 1 year. It's a multi-year, and 2 years, 3 years. Some of them they can go as much as 10 years. So the requisition for multi-year expenditure commitments. So here I'll indulge your listening to read it a little. So 68.1, a covert entity shall, in accordance with the instructions of the minister, make a requisition of a multi-year expenditure commitment for the approval of the minister. 2, the principal spending officer shall not approve a purchase requisition for a multi-year expenditure commitment unless the purchase requisition has been approved by the minister under this regulation. 3. For the purpose of subsection 1 of section 33 of the Act, the principal spending officer of a covered entity shall, in order to request for a multi-year expenditure commitment, prepare and submit a purchase requisition to the budget officer. A, in case of a procurement using public contract before awarding a contract. So here they are trying to let us understand that before we award any project, we should have a warrant from Ministry of Finance before we can go ahead to do that. So for variation orders above the original contract amount, warrant from Ministry of Finance is required. That is LI 2378 clause 66(1)(c). That is projects that are done. And then for the purpose of this one, that is 68(3)(b). So which says that in case of an increase in price or the occurrence of an additional payment under existing procurement contract. So if you have an existing procurement contract like a road project we have undertaken, and then there's an increase in price, the additional works have been occurred. In other words, variation orders. Before approval by a procurement committee of price variations. So you will need a warrant for the additional money that we are trying to get the client to incur. So that is why in most cases when we are trying to we are reviewing our variation orders and we are seeking approval for our variation orders, we have confrontation with Central Tender Board because they are looking at the public financial management regulations, and they are ensuring that before we commit the government of Ghana to that expenditure, we should have gotten approval clearance from Ministry of Finance or Road Fund, indicating that they have made provision for the additional works that we are adding on to get the project to be executed. They also understand that normally we need these variation orders to make the project functional. Otherwise, we may have to curtail it at a certain point. So it is our actions or inactions or documentation wise that is making some of the approvals a little difficult for us to be able to obtain. Questions to ask before issuing our variation orders. Are all variation orders necessary? Is it necessary to stabilize road by filling rock boulders more than 0.6 meters where there is no water? Is filling of rock boulders the only way to stabilize a road? I think if we ask ourselves this question very, very carefully, most of the variation orders that we raise will not come. Obviously, it is not all variation orders that are necessary. And in my quantity surveyor practice or my cost understanding of cost or the understanding of road construction, it is not necessary to fill boulders more than 0.6 meters where there is no water. The issue is not to get the water to seep into the road pavement. So if there's no water and you are able to fill 0.3, 0.4, and pushing it properly, you can compact in layers with ordinary material instead of the broad boulders that we are doing. But most often, in fact, this has been one of our major issues now, because most of the places that we go, they're saying that it's unsuitable, and therefore they want to go and then they want to fill with boulders, and it's creating a lot of challenges. I am taking our attention back to some practical issues that confront us. Well, those of us who are in head office and we have the opportunity to be reviewing things that are coming from the various sites. On the screen here, I show to you, I deliberately do not put the project title so that this one becomes like a case. But what we are seeing here is a true picture. It's something that has happened. So for a road that was under construction, for purpose of non-performance, the contract was terminated. Before the contract was terminated, crash rock base has been laid, covering a certain distance. So in repackaging the project, within the short period, repackaged the project and awarded it back to another contractor who was a subcontractor to the main contractor who was doing the work before. Now, the item for excavate to remove fail crash rock base, 300 millimeter remix to meet specified envelope, relay to require force and compact, 300 millimeter thick. Then there is an item which is a rate only. This particular one was rate only item. And if you look at it, it was rated in dollars, 15.4. This is an item that is on the ground. It has been placed there already. But for purpose of this, you know how crash rock deteriorates very quickly. For purpose of deterioration and things, they needed to rework on it. So this item was there. But there was no quantity. So they didn't anticipate from the beginning that the work would be deteriorated to that level. So there was no quantity. Then there's an item to continue with the project for where they haven't laid the crash rock. There's an item for provide, lay, and compact approved crash rock base material, 300 millimeter thick, the same thickness as the first one. But this is so for this particular one, the contractor is supposed to go and buy the material from the borrow pit, haul it over 1 kilometer. The excess kilometer will be paid based on the distance. Place it and compact to the required spec. And he's charging 13.8. He's charging 13.8. So you clearly see that the rate for the first item, which is already on ground, so you just go and scarify and mix up and compact, is more than he going to get the material fresh from the ground to come and do the work. Now, if you are a project manager or supervisor on this site, is it necessary to issue an instruction to a contractor to undertake the first item? Obviously, for me, it is no. Because if that item is there, and it is that the fact that it has maybe deteriorated to that level and it's not whatever. And if you look at the terrain of the place, the road was low-lying even in the first place. So it is better to leave that material that is there. Then you bring fresh material from the site, come and place it, which will cost you lesser. But this instruction was issued to request the contractor to scarify the existing crash road base and in place. And the certificate the contractor brought obviously was covering everything entirely on this. So meanwhile, he didn't pay any attention to the rate, neither did he make any effort to utilize clause 0.3 to obtain value for money for the client. So such actions, I think, is one of the issues that cause our client budget to deplete beyond normal. That is leading to this unnecessary what do you call it? Delay payments of contractors that we don't have the money to pay. If you look at a practical case 2, this is photo patching. The deliberately also did not put the rate, the region, neither did that put the project title for purpose of this presentation. The first item talks about you are cutting pothole to 50 millimeter deep, remove surplus material, prime bottom with a bitumen emulsion, then fill with premix 50 millimeter thick. So that is a shallow pothole. The second one talks about cutting the pothole to about 100 millimeter deep, where you will have to fill gravel before you top up with another 50 millimeter thick. So the 50 millimeter is in both cases. But here you even add more gravel before you add the premix. Yet the rate for the contractor for the shallow one is 120 Ghana cedi per meter square, and the rate for the activity which the one which requires more effort or more activities is 82. So now, when it comes to the practice or the payment or execution, the contractor does nothing about the second item because obviously you can see that he priced very low. Then he concentrated all his effort on executing works on the second activity. So I don't want to say the contractor, then the supervisors and whatever. We fail to look at issues like this. Then we put all the weighting, all the activities on the first item. And when we have exhausted the quantity that we have even put in the client, then we go ahead to issue a variation order to remove the second item and then in terms of quantity and include in and increase the volumes, the quantity for the first item. So obviously you see that there's no value for money for the client, and we are failing to utilize clause 12.3 to be able to obtain value for money for the client. So this morning these are some of the issues I want to bring to our attention so that whilst we are issuing our variation orders, we should be mindful about the cost implications that are going to come as a result of that. And then we should be mindful also about the client's space. And also to be mindful about the fact that when we are seeking the approval from Central Tender Review Committee or Central Tender also, we are guided by certain requirements that we need to obtain. And it becomes very, very challenging to get them. So I want to conclude by asking some questions that, and to let us understand that. So in conclusion, I say that most often our actions or inactions as project managers have contributed greatly to the depletion of the client's budget. Let's endeavor to make appropriate decisions in order to protect the client's purse. When we do this diligently, the issue of delayed payments will be reduced and more communities can benefit from road infrastructure, and the road construction industry will continue to survive. I'm sure that our interest is to make sure that this road construction industry that we are in, our seniors have been they've left, we are also benefiting out of it. There's a lot of unemployment in the country. If we are able to protect the construction industry, our children will come and also benefit out of it, and then the next generation will come. Then Ghana will benefit greatly as a result of this our actions that we take. Thank you very much for your attention.